Hello, everyone. Phil Yeski, UMDF Science and Alliance Officer, back with you in the second of a series of videos that we're recording related to the Clinical Research Pavilion that we'll be hosting at this year's Mitochondrial Medicine Symposium in Charlotte, North Carolina. In the first video, we talked about some of the background on the Clinical Research Pavilion, why we're hosting it, the kinds of data we're going to collect. And then we also spent some time talking with an investigator, Dr. Z from Children's Hospital of Philadelphia, about her study. If you haven't had a chance to watch that video, please check UMDF social media to find a link to that. But today, in this recording, we're going to spend a few minutes talking about a second study that will be hosted in the Clinical Research Pavilion, and that's the digital video assessments for PolG and primary mitochondrial myopathy patients. So with that, I am going to invite Mindy Leffler, who is the managing director at Casimir MS, to join me. Hi, Mindy.
Hi.
Thanks for coming in and just talking briefly about this and being involved in the Clinical Research Pavilion. We're really excited to have you and your group be a part of it. I thought it might be helpful for our audience, the patient community and mitochondrial disease, to just briefly hear about what brought you to this point, right, of being involved with a project like this and starting a company related to it. And there's a cautionary tale there, isn't there?
Absolutely. Thank you so much for the time. I really appreciate it. And I guess I would start by saying that I am actually a member of my own patient community. I have a now almost 20-year-old with Duchenne muscular dystrophy, and he's been a participant in clinical trials since he was about 8 years old. Duchenne is another disease community similar to PMM, in which 6-minute walk was utilized as the primary outcome in clinical trials. And what we've found after a decade of clinical trials has been that it hasn't necessarily been sufficient to get us the answers that we need at the end of the day as trial participants. And so we started working on outcome measures that would try to collect information that answered the questions that were most meaningful to patients, which is this changing the trajectory of my disease in a way, that's beneficial? And so what we started working on is this concept of taking video capture of daily activities in the home environment and looking at the movement patterns of patients as they work around things like progressive weakness, ataxia, myopathy, so that we could see if things were getting easier for them in their home environment. So we started working on it in Duchenne to address this deficiency in the answers that we were getting in clinical trials. And, my family lived that in an extremely personal way. I spent 2 years of my life and my son's young life flying every Wednesday from Seattle to Vancouver, Canada, in participation in a clinical trial. The first year was the placebo-controlled portion of the study. The second year was the open label extension, only to find out that the study failed to meet its primary outcome in the 6-minute walk. And to this day, we don't really know whether that drug, changed the trajectory of the disease at all, or whether, it was just deficiencies in the outcome measure selection and the study design. So that's really our mission at Casimir and MS, is to make sure that study participants don't come away with the same experience that my family had, which is giving up literal blood, sweat, tears, and most of all, yes, the thing that's most precious, time. And not coming away with the answers that you need at the end of the day.
We often speak, right, with our patient community about the opportunity and the need for participation in clinical trials, but also setting expectations, right, that it is a commitment, and that we've experienced in the mito community a similar shortcoming of what you described, right, where a 6-minute walk test did not deliver the objective data necessary to get a therapeutic approved. Yeah. So what I'm really excited about here is the opportunity to partner with you to try and collect data that would put us on a path towards thinking about real world evidence that could be meaningful in a regulatory filing for mitochondrial disease. Yeah. So this is a project where we've actually partnered, right? This is highly collaborative. We're actually, UMDF is partnering with PolG Foundation and the Mito Foundation out of Australia to make this possible. And our great gratitude to those organizations for partnering with us to enable the study. Let's talk about sort of the patients you see being involved in this, because I think part of what we're hoping for is, if there's anyone out there watching this and they're still considering coming to the symposium, How can they get involved with it? Who are we trying to identify for this study?
Absolutely. So what we want to do is we want to take a look at the movement patterns specific to the PMM and the PolG populations. So we're trying to quantify, how do you move when you're going about your daily life in the home environment? And then we can see, are those movement patterns reflective of greater ease in that movement, greater difficulty in that movement, stability in that movement? So what we need to do to be able to take a look at those movement patterns is partner with the disease community. So we're essentially asking you to partner with us to capture this data. And so the way this study is structured is that we'll do some initial video capture at the symposium itself. So you'll be kind of put through 15 minutes of standing up from chairs and walking up and down hallways and doing various activities. And then we'll be able to do a home-based capture a couple of weeks later once you've recovered from travel, to take a look at the difference between, what does it look like, to perform these activities after, travel fatigue might be a factor. And then in comparison to what does it look like in your home environment when you're rested. What we heard a lot from the PMM population was that this is a tough group of people, that deal with a lot of burden,
Right.
and they can get through,
Right.
a lot of things. They can get themselves through a 6-minute walk. So we're really looking for, what is your natural performance in your day-to-day home-based environment to see if that changes. So if people will come to the symposium, do that initial video capture at the symposium itself, and then you follow up by just doing a series of video captures with your own cell phone at home. Takes about 15 minutes, and we're going to compare kind of morning performance to evening performance on one day. And then 1 week later, we'll be able to take a look at how people are moving and then come up with a way to quantify that movement that's specific to the PMM and PolG populations. So we make sure that we look at your specific movement patterns, the movement patterns of people with the same condition, and we can build a quantification methodology that's specific to those disease states.
Well, as you're well aware, that this is a first step, right, in the direction towards building something that can have benefit inside a regulatory framework, right, for our ability to get drugs approved. But it's a very important first step, right? If we don't begin capturing data and trying to do it in an objective way, so that we can then validate it, we'll never get to it. So again, we're very appreciative of your involvement with it. I would just like to confirm, and maybe you can speak to this, really important that we're identifying patients that have a confirmed genetic diagnosis of either PolG or primary mitochondrial myopathy, PMM. And I believe the eligibility age was 16, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
16 on up, exactly.
Yeah, 16 and up. So if you, a patient or a loved one with a patient, or watching this video and you're not sure if you qualify, really the best way to do that is to express some interest in the program. We'll walk you through that here in a follow-up slide. You can fill out this form on the link you see below on our symposium webpage. We'll ask for a little bit of information, and my colleague Nicole Wilson will contact you to discuss eligibility. And soon we'll have further details from Casimir, right, to be able to share about the study itself so that you would be fully prepared for it.
Yeah. Can I just add really quickly, Phil, we have a really nice group of folks from Casimir that'll be there to walk you through every step of the way. And they'll also provide support once people go home to do that home-based capture. So you don't have to worry about any difficulty that you may have with technology or any level of assistance you might need. We've got a group of people that are ready to walk everybody.
Yeah, and I think it's meaningful that you and many of your colleagues have walked in these shoes, right, as a caregiver or as a patient themselves. And that really put you in a place to understand what the mitochondrial disease community is facing as well. Mindy, thank you for your time today. I know I look forward to seeing you in Charlotte, and hopefully we'll bring out as many patients as possible to be with you.
That sounds great. And just to let everybody else know too, as well, if you are unable to attend the symposium, we are still, going to allow people to enroll in this study just for the remote portion. So if you're just interested in doing the remote portion only, please contact us as well. We'll be happy to work with you on that front.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Mindy.
Thanks for your time. I appreciate it.
Sure. So as per the last video, I'd like to just wrap up by reminding everyone that MitoShare, our worldwide patient registry, will be the entry point for participation in the Clinical Research Pavilion. MitoShare is established as a clinical research database. So we ask you to join so that we can engage you understand your needs before the symposium and the pavilion, but importantly, after the symposium, to understand your experience and how we can improve upon it. So please, if you're not already a participant in MitoShare, I ask you to consider joining today, and you see the link on your screen to do that. And as I mentioned, on our symposium website, you will also find a form that you can fill out that would provide enough information for us to be able to contact you to finalize whether or not there's eligibility to participate in one of these studies. Thanks, everyone. Again, look forward to seeing as many of you as possible in Charlotte. We'll be back with another video soon talking about our final study in the Clinical Research Pavilion. Have a good day.